Welcome to Broken Not Shattered. Our guest today is Ima Bong. She's a content creator, a sickle cell advocate. Ima, welcome to the BNS podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you
Good.
for having me.
Good. Ima, let's go straight into it. Can you just share with us what was life like growing up?
Growing up was different from, what I came to understand that a childhood should be like. It was different for me because I grew up with sickle cell anemia. And I grew up with sickle cell anemia on autopilot because I, right from when I was a baby, I was diagnosed. So my parents got to find out when I was still a baby that I had sickle cell, and I would have crises right from when I was very small. And when they take me to the hospital, the doctors will ask, "Oh, what's her genotype?" And they'll say, sickle cell. And I heard this a couple of times. I was like, okay, so my genotype is sickle cell. At the time, I didn't understand what genotype was, but I just knew that my genotype was SS. And it was just different because compared to like other kids that would go out and play and would, jump up and down, just live like a child. Life was different for me because, you know, my mom would tell my teachers, "Oh, don't let her play outside," because it's not like you can tell kids to say, "Oh, don't play too rough with her." You are killing their fun. So you can't structure their fun. So basically, I would have to sit out all the fun things, and it was different. I lived life in like the shadows, basically, just watching other people, have fun and play around. And sometimes I would rebel and just like do whatever I wanted. Like I remember one time I participated in a cultural dance in primary school. And yeah, I ended up in the hospital, but I did the cultural dance anyway.
Well,
So I did
that's
it
a good.
anyway. So yeah, and yeah, so it was different because most times I would have a crisis and I would be in the hospital and school was in session. So when school was on holiday, like Christmas holiday, I would be going to school to write exams, and it would just be me, the security person who would open the school, and a teacher that volunteered to like give me my exams to write. And it was just weird having that kind of like, you know, this is not how school is supposed to be, you know. And then sometimes when you finally make it to school during like when school is in session, you have your friends making fun of you, like, "Oh, why are you always missing? Or why are you never around?" And things like that. And then because I was very tiny, I was very small, when people started to get to know that I had sickle cell, they'll say things like, "Oh, if breeze should blow you, just breeze just carry you away. Like a strong wind should come, strong wind you just carry you away." And I can laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny then, because like I was small. My sister I have a younger sister, and she's like she was bigger than me. She's still bigger than me anyway. So people always think that she was the eldest and I was the youngest. And
Wow.
now, yeah, now it's swag because I'm like, yeah, I look young. But then it was not. It was not funny. It wasn't funny because I'm like, I'm the firstborn. What do you mean?
Wow.
It
Right.
impacted my weight. It impacted friendships. It just impacted my life. Like basically, like I said, I was always in the shadows, in the corner, and just like watching people live and just being there. And it made you feel different. And then because of how your life was, people also make you feel different, because they didn't really understand, we're kids, and they didn't really know why I was so fragile in a sense. Yeah, that's growing up
Wow.
wasn't cool. I think the only thing that came out of growing up was knowing what a genotype was at a very young age.
And sounding very intelligent as an adult when you were still a child. So,
Yeah, basically, like you grow up so fast. Oh, yeah, that's something I want to say. You grow up very quickly because you now have to learn a lot of things. You have to be responsible for your health in a sense, taking your medications, knowing when to call the doctor. So you grow up really quickly, and yeah.
awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue talking to you, okay? Just 1 second. You've gained confidence in who you are, and now you become an advocate for this same cause, right?
Yeah,
Um, were you, first of all, before you get to the role of advocacy, you must have overcome a lot of personal challenges. I know you
yeah.
shared a few now, but let's be very specific. How have you been able to manage and overcome both the physical and the emotional toil of being a person living with sickle cell anemia?
The road has not been easy, and I will not say that I have overcome. I overcome every day because
Amen.
every day brings new challenges. Every day brings new insanity. Like you think that it cannot get worse, and then you wake up the following day and you're just like, what? It's like sickle cell blows your mind. Like every day, you're just like, okay, this is a new one. Okay. I didn't know that, this was possible, but apparently there's nothing sickle cell cannot do. So,
Wow.
it's a long journey. But to get to where I am today, first of all, I had to come to a point where I'm just like, number one, I did not give myself sickle cell. It wasn't a choice.
Mm.
If people could choose their genotypes, I don't think anybody would choose sickle cell. Number two, it's not a communicable disease. You cannot catch it by being close to me or talking to me or being friends with me or living with me. So it's not a death sentence, even though people seem to think it is,
Mm.
and basically I did nothing wrong by being born with sickle cell. So I had to come to that place of mind that, I deserve to be here just as much as everybody else, like nobody had, like it wasn't like any preferential treatment from heaven that or from wherever we came from. And they said, okay, because you were so good, this is your genotype. No, we all came and we were given what we were given, so it's like sometimes people ask me, oh, when are you going to outgrow this SS thing? And I ask them, like, do you outgrow your genetics? When are you going to outgrow the AA that you are or the AS that you are? Just because it's ridiculous. Like, so I had to come to that place of, acceptance. That's what I'll call it, accepting myself for who I am, what I have, and the life that I have been given, basically, and coming to accept the fact that I deserve to be here just as much as everybody else. I deserve to walk on this earth as much as everybody else. So I'm not going to like shy away or live in the shadows or anything, and yes, acceptance and being vocal comes with its own like cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons, if I'm being honest. So I just had to accept myself for who I am, and then um, I faced a lot of challenges. I think the major one that I had was when I battled leg ulcers, which is a wound that develops on your leg and it doesn't heal. Like it takes, I would say the grace of God. Sorry, I'm a Christian, so it takes the grace of God
Yeah.
for
Right.
for that kind of wound to heal. Sometimes it's caused by um, they call it venous ulcer. So maybe your veins are not carrying enough blood to that particular area, and because of the poor blood supply, it starts to deteriorate from the inside and then burst open as a wound on the outside. So I dealt with that for close to 12 years, and it was not funny. Like when it developed, I had two on each side of my ankle on my right leg, and they were not small size wounds. And I had them since like I was in secondary school. So imagine growing up to college and even like life with that kind of injury, having people say all manner of things and give all manner of opinions, and to a point where in the beginning stages when I didn't know what it was or how to treat it, it would get infected, it would smell, people would avoid you because of it. I was labeled in school as that girl that wears bandage, and I have a name, come on, and it was a whole lot to deal with. Every time I think about it, I get like emotional because it was just a lot, and I have met people who have dealt with who are still dealing with issues like that, for a long time. But it was so hard to. In fact, I remember there was a point I was kind of like suicidal because I was depressed because it was just, so much. You're young, you're supposed to be having fun, you're supposed to be living life, you're supposed to be, chasing your careers, chasing your dreams. But I could barely get up from bed on most days, and I was living on painkillers, going from hospital to hospital, trying different treatments. It was a hard time, you know. But my mom always used to say something. She would say, imagine if you ended it all today and then you got to the other side and they said, oh, if only you had slept and woken up, this is what your tomorrow would have been like.
Mm.
The regret that you would feel,
Mm.
so it kept me going. And she always used to say, one day you wake up and this thing will be gone. It will be a thing of the past. I didn't used to believe her then, but she was right. So I just had to make up my mind that, I was going to live as much as I can and do as much as I can, because as at that time I used to feel like, oh, I had a very short span. So I'd be like, let me make as much impact as I can. Let me do as much as I can. Let my presence be felt. Let me not just come and go and be one of those, a number. That was what I made up my mind to do, and it really helped me. And I think another thing that helped me was I had a doctor then that was treating me years ago, and Dr. Asia, if you ever watch this, God bless you. And he used to say something when he used to treat
What's
our
his name?
wounds.
What's his name again? Dr. Who?
Asia,
Dr. Asia.
yeah.
Big shout out to Dr. Asia. You are, that's
He
your
would
girl in
say,
my home 10
so Dr. Asia would say, when you're happy, your wound is happy. That's what he always used to say. And it made sense to me because when I'm not in a bad head space, when you're much lighter, and I feel like it kind of impacts your body's
Yeah, you're right.
learned
When
in
you're
that journey was that
you're so right.
another
Go
thing I
ahead.
learned in that journey was when you don't so sometimes you feel like everything is so overwhelming right now, like, because I feel like that's how, because I have been depressed, I have been suicidal, and I know how it feels when you just feel in that moment like, oh my god, everything, it feels like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and you just want it to stop. You just want everything to stop. And in those moments, one thing I've learned is take a breather. So what I watch movies a lot. Movies and TV series have seen me through the worst times ever. Whoever invented movies and TV series, God bless you. So I would just turn on something on my system and just start watching and just like zone out. And when I watch movies, I'm very engrossed because I feel like I'm now in that world. So I just zone out and watch for a couple of hours, and then after a while, life doesn't seem so bad anymore. It doesn't seem as heavy, and as crazy as it seemed a few minutes ago. That's an advice I always give people. Just zone out. Do something else. Like, stop thinking for like the next 1-2 hours and just focus on something else. Watch a movie, listen to music, do something that you like, and it helps really, because after a few minutes or an hour or two, you feel lighter. Maybe something in the movie would have inspired you, and you just feel like, okay, there's hope. I can take it another day. And that's another thing I also learned: take it one day at a time.
Yeah, the power of the mind. Once the
A lot
mind
of
is
times, because
yeah,
the reason why people feel so heavy is because you're thinking too much ahead into the future. You're thinking about, oh my god, because I remember then I used to think about, okay, so how would I work when I graduate? How would I have a kid? How would I marry with this situation? Like, how would I do these things that are like light years ahead of me? And I just said to, like, you know what, today is all I have to handle. If I handle today, we don't, and we successfully finish today, that's a win for me. And tomorrow we do it again. So those are the things that have really helped me, and having a great support system as well.
wow. Every day, one day at a time, and then you win, and you do it all over again. And guess
Yeah,
what? You win again.
even again, yeah.
Like Kamala Harris would say, when you fight, you win. So there you go. So
Yeah.
that's your message too. Wow. Um, it's easy for you and I to assume that everybody watching on this platform um, knows what sickle cell is, right? I didn't want to start with you lecturing them, but in
Yeah.
a nutshell, can you just take a minute or two? I know it's much more than that, and then we'll go only after that we'll go to our break and come back.
Okay.
Um, can you just tell our audience what is sickle cell?
Okay. In the easiest terms possible, sickle cell is a blood disease that is inherited from both parents. So both parents have to have the sickle cell trait, and then the child inherits a trait from each parent and has sickle cell. So basically, it's an inherited blood disease that they say it's formed. It has like a sickle shape, and it's because it's not shaped like the regular red blood cell. It doesn't flow through the blood, through the veins as easy as your regular red blood cell should. So sometimes it gets stuck in places like your joints, and when it gets stuck in those places, it causes problems because your body is no longer functioning the way it should. So that's why we have episodes of like pain crisis. Sometimes some people have stroke. It can impact your sight, causes things like leg ulcers, like I talked about. And just basically, that's why I say sickle cell is like it's just a trigger because it can cause anything, literally anything that you can think of. If those cells get into the wrong place, best believe that there's anything can happen. So yeah, that's basically what sickle cell is in a nutshell. So yeah.
And if I thank you so much for that, Emma. You don't mind me calling you Emma, do you? Because the name Emma
That's
Bong,
fine. That's fine.
right? Yeah. So, and also for those who might not know, just basically what Emma was trying to say was your red blood cells are round; they're like a little
Yeah.
circle. And in the case of someone who's living with the genotype she's talking about, your red blood cells are not round; they're almost like a moon shape, like a
Yeah.
smile. So when you see Emma
Mhm.
Bong have that beautiful smile on her face, that's what her all red blood cells, or some of them, would appear with. And because it's round, when yours is round, it flows easy. When it has that sickle or smile, it doesn't
Yeah.
flow easy. Um, Apparently, I am very aware of this. I have
Mhm.
done some work when I was living back in the UK with SCAR, which is one of the largest non-profits out there that work with individuals that live with sickle cell. It's not quite popular because it's a disorder that for some reasons I don't know why it happens
Mhm.
to Black people, Africans, African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, and in some cases some Asians. But for most part, we haven't had anything on record that I know of that has happened to a Caucasian. And so basically, that you see that disparity in the efforts to find research and get involved. But with
Yeah.
people like you, Imabong, the world will get to hear about it, and we hope that all those who are watching this platform get to know and do a research about it, and do anything you can to support the sickle cells advocates that are out there. Follow Imabong on her social media platforms. She just had a new video that came out. We hope that CNN and BBC, if you're watching, pick it up
Pick it
and
up, please.
Emma played, and then maybe interview Emma. Emma was going to take a break, and then we'll come back again, and we'll
All
wrap
right.
up the show. Thank you so much for that information, and well done, and kudos to you as you win. It's the BNN podcast. Today we're talking about dealing with stigmas, turning a sickle into a smile. And my guest today is Emma Bong herself, who is an advocate and content creator. Emma, you're now a champion and a serious advocate for the cause for those living with sickle cell anemia. What inspired
Yeah.
you? How did you just say, you know what, I'm going to get into this? And what motivates you daily to keep on going?
What inspired me? Okay, to be honest, initially I started talking about my experiences and my struggles on social media as a way to vent, as to a way to like release tension and just, like talk about it basically because I didn't have I didn't have a lot of
Outlets.
friends. Yeah, I needed an outlet basically. I didn't have a lot of friends and the friends I had didn't understand. So I just felt if I put it out on social media, at least I'm venting. It's an outlet. Whether they understand or not, that's not my business. This is just my outlet. And then people started to relate, to what I was saying. Other people who had sickle cell or who had friends and family that had sickle cell could relate, and they started to like connect with me. And then I looked at the community and I couldn't really see anyone that I could point out and say, okay, this person is fighting our cause. As at that time, there weren't a lot of people who were speaking out about sickle cell, openly and boldly, at least that I could find in Nigeria, especially. So I just felt, um, I could take up that space and, let people see someone they can look up to, see someone that they can get inspired by. Because I think if I had someone that I could look up to or someone that inspired me, I probably would have maybe done this much sooner, or maybe not done it at all, but at least but like there was no inspiration out there, and I just felt, this is something that people need to hear about. And it wasn't just initially, it wasn't just about creating awareness, it was about finding people that could relate to me, and giving them somebody they could relate to, basically. And then it became about, fighting the good fight, creating awareness, putting the word out there, because I started getting comments in my comments and DMs that were hinting on the issues that we face in the society, like stigmatization and discrimination, and then I was like, okay, I needed to speak on this, and the more I did it, the more other people could relate. And I feel like people were learning, most importantly,
I
from
like
our point of view, so. And what has kept me going, the fact that I'm able to help people from my little corner of the world. That's basically it. I've always wanted to, maybe because of how I grew up, I've always wanted to help people. I've always felt like there were more things to life than um would I say, making money and blowing and becoming like a celebrity. I just feel like there were more things in life, because maybe, because like I said, because of the kind of life I've lived and the kind of experiences I've had, I just know that there's so much more to life than that, and I just wanted to do my own part to help people from my own corner of the world. So yeah, that's what keeps me going. Every time I'm able to help one person, I get a DM saying, "Oh, you've inspired me," or "Thank you so much for doing the work that you do," or helping people to like pay for hospital bills from the community support and things like that. It makes me happy, and I just feel like, yeah, that's what I was put on this earth to do, basically.
There you go. There you go. At least you found your purpose and your course in life. And
Yeah,
look at it now. You say, I'm glad I went through all that. So now I am now. You're building a community, basically, of
yeah.
people who are um, listening to what you have to say and to find a way to support you. And I am now going to be part of your community in any way we can to be of support to your cause. You can count on the BNS team or my company, which is in case consulting, to be of support to what you actually do. Okay. Now,
Thank you so much.
yeah, no, no, seriously, I can identify with this in several ways, and I'll share with you towards the end. Um, let's talk about now. Now you're inspired. You're completely inspired. You're pumped. What would you like? You know what? Let's take a minute. Let's go back. ASSS AA. Explain that.
Oh dear.
Of
Okay.
relationships. There you go. Let me help you. Let's bring it into relationships because that's the biggest area.
um
She's this.
yeah,
She's
that's
he's.
that's the
Let's
that's the
talk about
biggest
it.
area.
Let's educate them. Go ahead, Emma. You got this.
So so I'm a big advocate for people who have AS and AS genotypes, to not get married. You know, because they
Why
say,
would you tell them? And why would you tell them not to get married?
because people who have the AS genotype have the sickle cell trait. The S is the sickle cell trait. So you are a carrier of sickle cell, basically. You're a sickle cell carrier, and then you marry another sickle cell carrier, you are guaranteed to have a child that has sickle cell, you know. And because you cannot really predict, maybe
So
you
that's the
can now.
sorry for interrupting you. So that's
Yeah,
AS coming together with AS
with AS, yes.
will always end up with one of the children being SS.
Most likely would always have a child that has sickle cell, yes.
Go
And
ahead.
even AS and AC as well would end up with a child that has SC, which is a variant of sickle cell as well. So I always say, don't bother going down that line, because especially in this part of the world, because let's be honest, people say, oh, there are ways you can check now and find out, if the baby is going to be SS and take care of it, or there are ways, there's IVF, they're just ways, but I'm like, how many of you can afford the ways?
Mm, yeah.
Because it's expensive. It is
Very expensive.
insanely expensive, And apart from expense, it takes a toll on the woman, if I'm being honest, especially when it comes to, figuring out what genotype the fetus is and then taking it out if it's not, what you want, or if the child is SS. I know a couple, they didn't tell their parents that they were both AS and AS. They got married, they moved to Canada, and um, the thought was that, because when a civilized
War,
environment, there are
yes.
places, there are things that can be done to help us prevent having a child that has sickle cell, you know. And from what I heard, they ended up getting divorced because every time they had a pregnancy, it was SS. And I
Wow.
heard she even lost twins a couple of times in the process, and they had to tell them that, what, it's either you do, I think either, I don't know, either IVF or you adopt, because if you continue this way, you're going to damage your, your womb and all of that stuff. And I don't really know the details, but they ended up getting divorced, because it wasn't going to work out. They were not going to be able to have a kid,
That would,
so
well, they could have a kid, but the kid was going
yeah,
to
they
be.
could have a kid. What?
Would have had a kid, but their kid would be SS, correct?
Yes, their kid will be SS definitely, and that's I think that's a journey they were not
Ready.
ready to take on, And so I always say don't engage, don't even engage, to be very honest. And I know it's not easy. I am speaking from experience because having sickle cell and dating is the worst combination that you can think about, because you have to end up with someone that is AA, that has the AA genotype, and it's difficult. It's like it's so hard. you know.
So, in other words, when boy meets girl for you guys, when boy meets
Yeah.
girl, and you're like, oh, where do you live? Where do you go to school?
Oh,
Or
we don't start with where do you live, how do you go to school? Boy meets girl. Hello, hi. What's your genotype?
what's the time?
Let's not waste our time. What's your genotype?
Oh my god! And the person says,
you know.
genotype.
I remember one time somebody told me that he was AA, but he wasn't sure. They told him, his parents told him that he was AA. I was like, boy, we're going to the hospital to go and check. So we literally went together to the hospital to check, to make sure that he was AA, because I didn't want stories, because there are so many stories about how people thought they were this, and at the end of the day, they're not, or they had tests done. That's another thing I wanted to touch on. Please ensure that you check your genotype a minimum of 3 times to be sure that that's your actual genotype. Because let me bust your bubble. A lot of you that think that you're AA, you're not. You're most likely AS, especially in this part of the world where we get testing done wrong. What?
Why would you say they're not? Is there a reason why?
You're not, because I have so many examples of people who maybe traveled abroad and started a life over there, got married, or maybe had a kid, and then the kid turns out to have sickle cell, and then the both couples are confused, like, what's going on? I thought you said you were AA, and I thought you said you were this, and then they end up in the hospital, and their genotype is not the genotype they thought. Because to be honest, we have genotype errors in this part of the world. It happens. Sometimes you get a wrong result. Which is why I always tell people a minimum of 3 times. And there are accredited places that you can go to check your genotype in Nigeria. I have a video talking about that. It's on my social media, places where you can go and you can be sure of the result. But even then, still do it a minimum of 3 times. So at least be sure that this is your actual genotype. Because so many people are walking up and down thinking they are AA or they are AS, and they really are not. So yeah, cross-check your genotype again.
Yeah, that's inspiring. And I believe that this work you're doing will definitely have an impact in dealing with the stigmas and the misconceptions that people normally have.
Yeah.
What have you found to be the top 2, top 3 misconceptions people have when they see people with someone's sickle cell?
I think the major one that we deal with is the fact that people think that you outgrow sickle cell. I don't understand it, to be honest, because you cannot outgrow your genotype.
Correct.
People that are AA and AS, have you outgrown your genotypes? No. Yeah. So why do you think that we would outgrow our own genotype? Wow. Like, a lot of people, because even when I was younger, I had people tell me, oh, don't worry, by the time you're so age, you will no longer be having crises. This will be a thing of the past. And I get to that age, and sickle cell is like, guess what? I'm still here, And you get to another age, and they tell you, oh, don't worry, by the time you get to this age, you will no longer have crises. And then you get to that age, and you're like, still having crises. Yeah. So, like, there's no age where sickle cell just tells you, oh, thank you for participating in this project. We're going to leave you now. You've come to the end of this trial. Thank you for participating, and leaves you. No, there's no age that happens, basically. I think the misconception is that people, the older you get, you're able to manage your triggers. You're better able to take care of yourself. So ideally, you should have less crisis, because now you know your triggers, you know the things that will put you in the hospital, you know how to manage your stress. So it should be less of crisis. That's the misconception. So when people start getting older and they're not having crisis as much as they were at a younger age, people think that, oh, they've outgrown sickle cell. No, they have not. It's still there. They just know how to manage themselves better. I think another misconception is, I grew up with this one as well. In this part of the world, we used to have the abikus and the obanjes that people used to think that, that concept, and
Yeah,
that concept applies to sickle cell, because people just believe, and because in those days they didn't know what it was. So children will come, they will not be taken care of properly, they will die. And then, people still think that, we don't have a life, we don't have a long lifespan. I still get DMs that say, oh, the people with sickle cell live up to 30 years old. And I'm like, I turned 31 this year, so I guess yes.
Mm.
And I know other people
who are in their 50s.
yeah, I know other people who are in their 80s. I think there was a lady that lived up to 100 and something. So yeah, we do live longer than, the idea of Abiku and Obanje may, people think. So yeah, we do have long lifespan. It's just the grace of God and, better care of yourself. And what other misconception? Yeah, it's still in the area of this fragility. People think that we are so fragile, especially when it comes to like relationships and marriage. It's one of the, and even work. You get a job, you go to the hospital, you go to the sorry, they send you to the hospital for like medical tests. Your genotype comes back sickle cell, and they never call you again. Because they don't want you to come and die in their office or die on their hands. you know you meet somebody, you're getting along well, they introduce you to the family, and then your potential mother-in-law is like, I don't want my child to be a widower in his young age, in his prime. Why do people want us to die so much? I don't understand. Like,
No, it's the misconception that
yeah, I know, I know, but I'm just like,
that's what it's
why? So we're not that fragile. Like, yes, we get sick, we fall ill, I know, but we are one of like the strongest people that you would ever meet in this planet, because the crisis makes you stronger. The things that we've been through, it can only, in fact, sometimes I feel like my life should be made into like a movie for like maybe Netflix, so that when people watch it, they're like, is this somebody's real life? It doesn't seem like somebody's real life,
Oh.
But yeah, I'm still here. It makes you stronger, So yeah, we have grit, we have tenacity, we stand. In fact, when the video that went viral came out, my boss where I work called me and she was like, she had no idea that, I was like this, because I never let it show. I'm
Right.
always like, we always try to be the to do the most basically when it comes to work or everything, so that people don't see you as weak.
Right.
We don't want people to see you as weak. We don't want the pity and all of that. Just love, care, and genuine empathy and attention. So yeah, those are some of the misconceptions I feel like people need to like pull it back. Mothers, I know that yes, in your time there was not a lot of awareness about sickle cell, but we're not that fragile. I have friends that have kids, are married, and they're doing well in their homes. Make it easy for us, please.
Yes. I know, I agree with you, completely agree with you.
Yeah.
This is good stuff, because obviously from here people will get to understand more. We're gonna start wrapping down. We've overcome our time. Let's talk about the future. I know you said take one day at a time, but the future. Like I said earlier on, when we were talking, this disease does not pertain to a lot of people who are of a different race altogether. It seems to be
Yeah.
blacks, Africans, Afro Caribbeans, and in some cases Asians and Indians area. But I haven't seen a Caucasian yet um, who has
A typical warrior, yeah.
exactly. So you being a warrior, being a champion for the cause, someone who has lived and now starts to share this impact. When I went to your social media to look at you, my team were very big on getting you on. I said, you don't have to stress on this one. Don't worry. I can identify with this cause very well. And like I said, I'll talk about it towards the end. But I went to your platform with almost 12,000 followers following you. I saw a lot of my personal friends.
Really?
You know how you go to and it shows all the people that you know, and there were
Oh
one
yeah.
very very good friends, and I know it's like, so they're following
Mhm.
this for a reason. It's like okay, and these are like household names actually in where you live. So like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So bring her in. Hopefully, when you put this on your platform, they get to watch it also. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna share anything with them that we had you on, so
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
find
yeah.
out I watch it. So the last thing I would like to ask you, as we wrap up, is the future. Where do you see research in sickle cell, treatment for sickle cell going in the future, as you create, as more people like you in the community create a lot of awareness around this?
Hmm. Um, like you said, sickle cell is predominantly a black disease, and I feel like as a black disease and as black people, we're too laid back when it's this is our problem. Like we're waiting for the um foreign world to like give us an answer, a solution, when we should take up this as a challenge, and like say this is our problem. How do we solve it? How do we eradicate sickle cell? That's what I feel like. We're too laid back, and okay, this is the sickle cell. Nobody's really like we're not making it a priority, basically. And every year about over 100,000, I think, or over 150,000 babies are being born with sickle cell in Nigeria.
How many? How
Every
many?
About 150,000
Wow.
every year.
Wow.
Every year.
Wow.
So imagine what that's going to do to the population in the coming years.
Yeah. And this is just one country.
This is just one country. Nigeria has the highest number of children being born with sickle cell in the world.
Wow.
Nigeria does have. So I feel like, and because we need to actually wake up and realize that this impacts our population, it impacts our workforce, it impacts our lifespan as a country, and the people living in the country as well. So we need to do much more than, when it's September, some people just say, okay, what is the cause for this month? Oh, it's sickle cell. Okay, let's find somebody that will come and do an interview and talk about sickle cell, and
Right.
then they forget about it until next year.
Right. Right.
There needs to be so much work done, research, awareness. We talk about this now and people can understand because they understand what I'm saying. They understand English, they're educated. There are lots of people
We
back
don't.
in the towns and the villages who don't understand what I'm saying. We need to take sickle cell awareness to the streets, to the towns, to the villages, and say it in a language that they will understand.
Right. Right.
Talking about the disease, talking about awareness, talking about genotype, especially genotype awareness. And then in the area of finding a cure, yes, this is, like I said, it's our problem. We need to figure out how to solve this, because the cures, or the supposed cures that we have out there right now, are not accessible to everybody. We have bone marrow transplants, yes, but how many people can do a bone marrow transplant?
That's right. That's right.
How many people can afford a bone marrow transplant? And then all the complexities that come with bone marrow transplants, So we actually do need to sit up as a people and see that this is our problem, and solve it, and not just be laid back and expect, solutions to come from, heaven, or like the Caucasians, like you say, because it's not their problem.
Mm.
They would.
I know of an organization. Sorry for interrupting you. I know of an organization that is one of the big pharmaceutical companies here in America, and they
Yeah.
are currently working on that. They're currently
Yeah.
working on finding a resolve or some kind of treatment or medication
Yeah.
for sickle cell. They're putting good money and good resources behind it, and
Yeah.
they're starting a pilot program in Africa. And
Okay.
unfortunately, Nigeria was not one of the countries selected.
Which is ridiculous, because Nigeria is the country that is most plagued with sickle cell. So I don't
I
really
guess I
understand.
guess I guess the challenge then is not just, and I understand what you're saying. I think Ghana was one of the countries they
But
selected.
I don't actually blame them, because our government and our infrastructure and our
That's what
structure doesn't make it easy
yes,
for companies to come in and do things like this.
yes. So I think that was it. They had those challenges when it came to setting up and
Maybe I should go to Ghana so I can be part of this.
yeah, I can introduce you to the people behind it, and and I guess they'll be watching this today as we go along.
Yeah.
So that's a good place. But I know Ghana is one of the countries, and hopefully someone like you can be a good advocate for what they're doing. And
Yeah.
why not? Why not? Afterwards, right? And maybe you can educate them some more, and in areas like this, because they're coming from this part of the world into Africa, they need people, foot soldiers on ground that they can work with that will help them get the message across. And
Definitely.
you should be one of them. Thank you so much for your time. The name Imabong, what does it really mean?
Imabong means God's love. It's actually Imabong Abasi, which means love of God, love of a king, God's love. So I think that name has really played a major role in my life because God has really shown his love to me, for the past couple of years. Yeah.
On that note, God's love, Imabong. Keep up the good work, keep on creating content, and keep on advocating for this cause. I told you that towards the end, I will talk about why I'm passionate about this. A good friend of mine, Bobby, may your soul rest in peace, lived a good life, lived his full life at a university in Nigeria, in the eastern part of Nigeria. And then when he came to the end of it, he just walked away from university. I said, "Oh, there's no need living. I'm not going to live a long span. Let me just go and enjoy my life." Bobby spent about 5 years, 6 years out there just enjoying life, and nothing happened to him. He was like, "Oh, so this is a myth. I didn't just pass away." So Bobby now decided to go back to school and start all over again. And he was much older than us, but Bobby had come back and started doing this whole thing all over again. And then when we got to our final year, Bobby had a crisis, and we lost Bobby. So so that's something that's very dear to my heart. Those of us who watch this program who know Bobby, I call him Bobby, but you know who we're talking about. We know and understand why Ike has decided to advocate for this. So, for all of you out there, just live every day at your time. Live, live, live. And like Imabong said, just take every day and win. Any word you have for us?
Me?
Password?
Yeah, I think everybody should just show love, honestly. Because sometimes the people that you expect that are supposed to understand you better are the ones that, treat you the worst, So everyone should just like be kind, honestly, because you don't know what that person is dealing with at that moment in time. Your kind word or your rash words may impact their life in a way that you can never imagine. So yeah, let's just be kind.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the entire BNS podcast, I want to say a big thank you to you, Emma, for the work that you do and for the community you've created. And for all of us out there, we would be behind you to support you. In our famous three words, love, peace, and more grace. See you guys next week on the BNN podcast. Today, we're turning a sickle into a smile.